Welcome to the One Life One Chance podcast. I have a very special guest. Somebody who's known me since I was, I think, probably 18. This is part of
sleeping in the closet.
yeah, this is part of the Roadie Days series when I worked with Sick of It All. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast, Mr. Armand Majidi.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Thanks for being here, Armand. So we have a lot to talk about before we get to like me as a shitty roadie. I want to get to you and I've already spoken to Pete and Craig and Lou, and I know that when they first met you, you were a kid with long hair with like an upside down cross on your shirt.
Yeah.
So you were born in, where were you born actually?
In Tehran, Iran.
In Iran.
Yeah. I was born over there. My dad's Iranian. My mom was working for the U.S. government, and they fell in love and had my brother and I, and so I was born over there. Moved to England for a number of years, moved back to Iran when I was 4, and then lived there through the revolution.
Wow.
Through about half of the hostage crisis. And then, once the Islamic Republic was voted in, my family knew it was time to leave. So
yeah,
that was when my parents decided, okay, we got to get out. So I came over here in 1980. And moved in with my American grandparents in Jamaica, Queens.
Wow. So how old were you then?
12.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so I lived in Iran from when I was like 4 until I was 12. For like good formative years, 8 formative years.
Yeah. What was it like living there? Was it weird?
Actually, it was cool growing up there because I was going to like a nice small school, and like almost all of the kids that I went to school with were like me. In other words, like half and half,
yeah,
either English or half American, and then half Iranian. So everybody was kind of like, even though we were all like mutts, we were all cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
And everybody spoke English. So we would have English classes in the morning and then Farsi classes in the afternoon. Sometimes we would have like the same subject twice. Like history would... history and English would be about the Western world, and then history and Farsi would be about Iran.
Oh, that's amazing, man. That's awesome. You got best of both.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, but I was never a very good Farsi speaker, so I did a lot better in school doing the English classes.
So when you got to New York, was it like a total culture shock for you? Was that crazy or?
Some of the things were like going from a school which only had like 300 kids to going to Francis Lewis High School, which had like 3,000 kids.
Damn.
That was a pretty big deal. And then there were certain aspects of American culture that were kind of strange because like the fact that like black kids had to be bussed in from Jamaica, and I would be on all the Jamaica buses with them, going, because where I lived in Jamaica and where the school was in Flushing was kind of far. So I had to take like 2 buses every day to make that trip.
Wow.
And, like just seeing like the fact that there was like this racial tension and everything like that, and going to high school there, it was always like, it was unfortunate to see, It was kind of sad to see America be this place where that kind of vibe is still alive and kicking, and it is still to this day.
Yeah.
It's sad.
So how are you as a student? Were you a good student?
No. I was pretty bad, and what do you call it? And then once I met up with Pete and Lou, I got even worse because I think we were just a bad influence on each other.
Damn.
And we ended up cutting out so much of my whole my first junior year of high school. I just got like failing grades almost across the board because I was just not at school.
Holy shit.
So often, and we would write each other notes, pretend to be each other's parents. You know what I mean?
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was really bad. Like I think all of us suffered a lot, like in school once we started hanging out with each other.
Yeah.
But we also had a lot of fun. So I guess but it was kind of like a positive thing for my life as a whole that my parents then moved up to Tarrytown in Westchester.
Yep.
And pulled me out of Francis Lewis, away from Lou and Pete, and then so once I was up there, I was like, I got to get out of high school. I can't stand going to high school. So I just did really well once I was up there.
Mm.
And I was just like on my own up there, you know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I made friends, but it wasn't like, like my social life still consisted of me taking the train down back out to Queens and spending every single weekend at Lou and Pete's house,
Holy shit.
you know?
Yeah.
Yes. Like we maintained our friendship and in a way that we spent like every single weekend together, you know?
Were your parents strict?
Nah, my parents were actually, when I think back, I think my parents were like the least strict parents in the world and allowed me to do way too much shit that I should have never been able to do. And you know what I mean? It was like, yeah, I mean, really lenient, but to a fault. I think back and I think like, you know, having a little bit more discipline probably would have been a better idea because, you know, I ended up on a little bit of a strange path when I was like in my later teen years.
Yeah.
You know, wanting to just experiment with drugs and things like that. And like, you know, just being able to make my own rules and be, you know, there were times where I'd be like hanging out on 42nd Street, like sharing a bottle with a homeless guy, you know, at like 4 a.m. You know what I mean? And that was back when 42nd Street was a dangerous place.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? So like there were times where I think back about what I did and I'm like, holy shit, I'm lucky that I lived, you know?
Yeah. That's crazy.
I know.
So how old were you when you were doing that? Were you like 17?
17, actually, you know, 15 to 16, 17, like those kind of ages.
Wow.
Like too young to be doing that kind of shit.
Yeah. So did you have any?
Yeah, like,
did you have goals in high school? Like, what was your goals in there?
I mean, I guess, you know, I'm like one of those very, very lucky people that always just wanted to play music.
Yeah.
And it ended up happening for me, you know? So, and there's so many people that probably have the same aspiration, but end up working at Guitar Center or you know, or end up like just playing in a wedding band and working the crappy job that they hate, you know?
Yeah.
So to be able to do what I do is a blessing. And like, you know, I thank my lucky stars every day.
Yeah. What were some of your jobs like? So you graduated, obviously.
Yeah. I got out of high school and, my first job, right away, I hooked up with that band Rest in Pieces as a guitarist.
Yep.
And just because there was a guy that I knew in high school up in Westchester that knew the other guys from Rest in Pieces. They were from a few towns away from me.
Yeah.
And so he introduced me to them, and they needed a guitar player. So I was just like, yeah, why not? And I ended up really clicking with those guys. I really liked them.
Yeah.
And so I was their guitarist for a little while. And then the bassist, Josh, got me my first job, which was working at a stone yard. So we were just, you know, it was like one of those horrible jobs where you have to deal with like really dangerous giant pieces of rock all the time.
That's crazy.
They were cut stone, but, you know, they would like fall all the time and like hurt people. So it's like one of those jobs that it was dangerous. It was dirty. It was just nasty and like horrible. So, you know, I was eager to get out of that.
So were you going to, I mean, to go back a little bit, so how you met Pete and Lou was just in Queens, right? Like, was that just like at school?
Yeah, I think the first time, I think I might have seen them at shows, like, you know, going to some metal shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there was one time, I think I was just walking home or something like that in Queens, and I ran into Lou. Oh, wait, actually, no. The very first time I was like really introduced to him, I was coming back from a show in the city, and they had been at the same show.
Oh, shit.
And I was with my friend who knew them just from Queens. This guy named Dan Monahan. He ended up being more of a biker than anything else, but he was more into the metal stuff. And
yeah,
I mean, he was the guy that originally took me to go see Negative Approach at Phoebe's. So like he was more of a metal guy, but really appreciated certain hardcore bands as well.
Yeah.
So like he was the one responsible for taking me to my first CB's matinee, and like I went to like a few early hardcore shows with him. So this guy Dan Monahan was like kind of like he was integral, like, part of me meeting up with Lou and Pete.
Yeah.
And so we were coming back from the show that we were all at in the city, and we were going back to Queens, and we were on the 7 train, and that's where I vaguely remember meeting Lou and Pete, because I was so drunk and I was so sick that I was like trying to hang out, but I have to go like every couple minutes and go between the cars and barf all over the track. So it was one of those moments where like I can't, it's not a clear memory, but I do remember that was the first time I ever met those guys.
And how old were you?
And then I was probably 14.
Oh shit.
Must have been 14, because I remember like really starting to hang out with these guys like a lot when I was like 15.
Yeah. And you were crazy metalhead, huh?
What's that?
You were crazy metalhead, huh?
Oh yeah. We all were.
Yeah.
Everybody was into metal, and I got introduced to hardcore in like '81 by a friend of mine that lived down the block in Jamaica.
Yeah.
And he ended up actually becoming a musician. He was this guy Rick. I forget the name of his band, but he ended up playing like in a metal band.
Oh, that's cool.
And they did okay, and it was and all that. He lives, I think, out in Texas now, but it was him and this guy Dan Monahan, and there was a guy that I met in high school named, I don't remember his real name. His nickname was Foil Shits, and he had a band called Distorted Youth that played CDs one time, and I guess he got his nickname because he wrapped himself completely up in like aluminum foil to take the stage, and so for some reason they called him Foil Shits. So I don't remember his real name, but he was the one like that like gave me, and he got mentioned in the song That Crazy White Boy Shit, because he was the one. He was the one that introduced me to the Bad Brains.
Okay.
He gave me the Roar cassette, and to listen to, and I just like borrowed it from him, and I was just like, holy shit, this is amazing, So
that's awesome.
You know what I mean? There were certain players involved in the
key
whole
players,
Queen, in the Queen scene, which like kind of connected the dots between metal and hardcore.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like there was that thing going on where like almost everybody across the board, metalheads and hardcore people, punk rockers, you name it, everybody loved Motorhead.
Okay.
So, so like that kind of
united you all.
Connection. Yeah, that connection made everybody kind of see eye to eye on a lot of shit.
That's interesting.
So, and there was another guy, Anthony Ferrante, that was part of like the whole Murphy's Law crew.
Gotcha.
That I think Jimmy probably still hangs out with to this day. That was a guy, like in my first gym class, I looked over and I saw this guy. He looked decked out, all punk rock, and he had on his school notebook, he had loud, fast rules, and
that's awesome.
I was just like, oh shit, and so he was a guy that was telling me like, you gotta come to some shows, but at the time I was kind of intimidated because you hear about the shows being all dangerous and how like awful shit happens to like newbies and all that kind of, and that I guess it did for a lot of people, but I really shouldn't have been that intimidated by the New York punk or hardcore scene, because once I ended up going, I realized like how people were generally cool. Like if you didn't go in there with an attitude, you didn't get treated with one, and like what I mean, like it was pretty respect based. So it was like actually like a really open-minded, awesome scene back then, which was almost preferable to modern hardcore.
Yeah. Were you a bigger kid? Were you a big kid back then or no?
A what?
Were you a big kid? Like a bigger kid?
No. I wasn't. Like, I mean, it was like, it wasn't until moving up to Westchester where I started getting into like lifting weights and stuff like that. So I was like a generic kid up until that point. And then once I got some muscle on me, then I guess I kind of, I got like, I beefed up a little bit.
Yeah, you became a up goon.
Oh God, this fucking annoying guy.
So Armand, when did you start? What inspires you to start playing drums? And like, do you remember like your first drum set or like your favorite drummer back then? Or
I always tended to listen to drums and music, like back when I was living in Iran, even. Like,
yeah,
that was like the main instrument that I would like, kind of focus on, just to kind of get an idea of how the beats were put together and everything like that. So I always kind of had it in my brain, and it wasn't until I remember messing around. There was a teacher in my school in Iran that like kind of showed me the basics of playing drums.
yeah.
And I did like one really awful recital where it was like, just me on drums, and I think it was a piano player or something like that.
Oh wow.
But of course I played too fast,
Spazzing.
which kind of means that I was bred to do this. But but I screwed up the recital because I played too fast. I was too charged up,
Oh shit.
But then it wasn't until later on in life where when New York City Mayhem was playing around and Tommy was playing drums and singing, and that's kind of awkward for like a hardcore thrash band.
Yeah,
they were. So it was just a little awkward, and Tommy wanted to be a front man. So at that point, they tried me out, and they tried out Billy Psycho, and I ended up getting the gig. So even though I was completely new to the instrument, like it was just like but the band became Straight Ahead at that point. It was like the transition from New York City Mayhem to Straight Ahead was Tommy not being a singing drummer anymore, and also bringing in Rob on guitar, who played in Rest in Pieces as well.
Yeah.
So it was and then Gordon wasn't a part of it anymore. So that was the mark in time where New York City Mayhem became Straight Ahead.
Were you
and so
go ahead.
And basically I played drums for maybe 5 or 6 times, and then we had our first show, and it was at that club February's out in Long Island.
Okay.
And then maybe the 10th time I sat down behind a drum set was our first CB's matinee.
Oh wow.
So
awesome.
It was like really quick, like
yeah.
And I look back at looking at the video of that show at the first CB's matinee that I played, for being like the 10th time I ever played drums, that was pretty solid. It was
That's
actually
awesome.
very like I impressed the shit out of myself looking back at, like, damn, I picked it up really quick, especially because it was like, it wasn't, a regular orthodox drummer. It was completely orthodox. So it was all the crazy, like, thrash kind of stuff that Tommy taught me how to do. And I was able to do it. It was just like really fast, really crazy. And I was able to pull it off. So
awesome.
I knew that I could, I could get better at it. And then, a few months later, I ended up doing the Sick of It All demo.
How did that come about?
It was just those guys kind of working on a band in their basement. Wow. And they were, they already had Richie. Yeah. And then they had little Dave on drums, who was a Chinese guy.
I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like the weird, like, Chinese Nazi.
He was?
He was a Chinese Nazi.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, strange things like that happened in New York back then, because he
was he a military dude?
What's that?
Was he
he ended up going into the Marines.
That's right.
And he changed his ways very quickly, but for a short time there, he was like a Chinese Nazi.
That is fucking random.
Yeah, I know. It's so weird. But like, and then they had Mark McNeely on bass.
Yeah, Mark Goober.
Actually, before Richie, it was Mark McNeely on bass. I'm sorry. And so yeah, Mark Goober and Dave were the ones that played the first Sick of It All show. Yeah. With Lou and Pete, and it was a show that Craig set up.
That's awesome.
Out on Long Island. So I was there, and at that point, just by being friends, I was already kind of. I went to rehearsals, and I wrote a song for Sick of It All at that point.
Really?
So even at the first show, I got up and sang the dance part, of the song that I wrote for Sick of It All.
That's fucking cool.
So like everything was so kind of intertwined back then. Everybody was playing with everybody else, and that's why the New York hardcore scene in the late '80s was just so prolific.
Yeah,
It was because it was like this big. It was like a center for creativity. That's what's so frustrating for me when I see certain people's take on American hardcore, like that guy Stephen Blush making that movie about the hardcore scene and saying how it ended in like 1986, which is just happens to be the year the Sick of It All started.
Yeah, that was American hardcore. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously hardcore didn't die in '86. It died
Hell
for
no.
him. It died for him maybe, but that was when the New York scene really blossomed.
Hell yeah.
Because all of a sudden there was so many bands. The bands were moving, like Youth of Today moved into New York City.
Yeah.
To be a part of what was happening there.
Yeah.
And they hooked up with Gorilla Biscuits and Warzone, and there was just like so many bands where like all the members played with all the other bands that it was just like it was like such like a I don't know, like a productive thing going on. Like the community, it was so like community based.
Yeah.
That and then anytime there was ever a city connected with a style of music, the same shit was going on. Like Seattle was the grunge. The same idea. It was like a whole bunch of people, and you see the same thing with like Temple of the Dog, where you have guys from Soundgarden playing with guys from Pearl Jam.
Totally.
Same idea, where all the musicians are just involved with each other.
Yeah.
And the bands are not like so separate. Everybody's kind of on the same wavelength, just like, working things out and just pouring their hearts into their music.
Yeah, that still happens now with like, I noticed just in the past couple weeks, like Youth of Today and Gorilla Biscuits and Judge, they're sharing members. They still swap the band members still, and they like interchange each other guitar player. Like it's pretty cool. That was happening back then, but yeah, they still do that now. I noticed that with the bands. It's cool.
It's always cool to see that. And that's one of the things that one of the things I experienced later in life was dealing with Fat Mike, because Fat Mike is a guy that's been around since day one.
Totally.
I mean, he was out in San Francisco, but like he was still like, I remember the very first show I ever went to go see at the old Anthrax Club in Connecticut was a NoFX show.
Oh wow.
So and that's going way back, and but he's a guy that like doing business with him, you realize, holy shit, this guy, he's wealthy because he's like a self-made millionaire.
Yeah.
Through just having like a really good band and really good business sense and having a successful label.
Yeah.
And he's very quick to share the wealth because of the fact that he loves seeing his friends also make it by playing music. That.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And like, to be honest, like he's like one in a million, because there aren't a whole lot of people that share the wealth like that, and also are so supportive of their friends to continue doing what they want to do, what their passion is, as opposed to watch them fall by the wayside and have to work a corporate job or like a working class job and see all of that musical talent just go to waste.
Yeah, I love that. That's because he's been there too. He's a band. He owns it. He owns the label. He runs the label. He started that band in the '80s. He still tours. Like he knows the whole entire behind the scenes,
the whole process.
Yeah, totally.
Knows, like the process from both sides.
Yeah,
which is something that kind of helped me too, as far as Sick of It All goes, because I'm like the business guy, always have been, and there was a year and a half where I left Sick of It All.
Yeah, why was that? What was that? I remember that because I remember Max Capshaw played drums. I remember that.
It was because I had a girlfriend that didn't like me touring, and she kind of she was like kind of putting the pressure on me not to tour, and like at that point, literally I toured once. And she had like
that's crazy.
And she had such a rough time with it that like she like kind of was pressuring me to give up the band and like just get a job. So I ended up getting a job and leaving Sick of It All for a year and a half.
I remember that.
During that time though, I worked at Sick of It All's label, which was in effect Relativity, Combat Core. Like it was like the big umbrella label was Relativity. So I worked there for a year and a half, and I got like a good insight into the business side of the music scene as well, which I was then able to use going back. And once I was just primarily a musician again, I was able to use that whole business mind to make sure Sick of It All wasn't getting ripped off, to make sure we were doing the right thing, and make sure that you know what I mean, and nowadays I'm the one that comes up with the budgets, and
awesome.
I help the tour managers out with the rough budget, and then it gets more and more fine tuned as we hit the road. But I'm involved in all that kind of crap. I just got done dealing with the band's taxes, which I'm sure nobody wants to hear. But but these are the mundane kind of nonsense, bullshit, mediocre crap that you do have to deal with
100%.
as a musician. And if you don't deal with your own business yourself, then you're always putting your business in somebody else's hands, and you never know what their motives are.
It's true. It's a really good point.
Know what I mean? So it's really good to be able to keep it in-house and make sure that the band is taken care of from the inside. So, that's my advice to starting musicians, is to try to learn the business behind it, as well as, be creative and write songs and create music. And, it's a fine line that you have to walk, and not become too much of one or too much of the other.
True.
Because if you're just all about music, then you lose sight of the business. And if you're all about business, then you lose sight of the music.
It's true. It's a balance. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a fine balance. But if there's somebody that's in your band, like I am for Sick of It All, that can do that, then you have a much better chance of being a band for a really long time, like we've been.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, Adam handles the business and the budgets. I handle all the merch and all that stuff. We do the tours together, and
right.
I do think that's the key. Besides the brotherhood and the friendship, that's the key to longevity, is like knowing your business, how to handle it. Because a lot of bands end up breaking up because of money and stupid shit like that.
Hell yeah, definitely. I mean, it makes such a big difference to be able to you guys divvy it up, where you're in charge of this and Adam's in charge of the other thing. So that's perfect.
Everybody has their own things. So when you left the band for that year and got into that business, were you missing playing music? Was it hard for you?
Oh, yeah, like crazy. It was pretty rough, because once, it even got to a point where I was making my own a list of reasons to stay with this girl or not.
Oh, shit.
And the list for leaving her was way longer than the list to stay with her. So I knew that our days as a couple were numbered.
Yeah.
And so I was very eager to just get back to doing what I was doing. And then I got the call from Pete when they had problems with EK. EK just didn't end up really meshing with the other guys as far as his personality goes, and
I was on that tour with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So how problematic the vibe was in the band. So and when I got the call from Pete to see if I'd be interested in getting together with them to write a new record, I was all about it. And instantly, it was so, the way Just Look Around came to be was so quick and painless, and just it was fun, and we recorded it probably within, I don't know, within 4 months of me getting back together, and that's including the touring that I did with the band as well during that, which was our first trip to Europe as well, in early '92.
Yeah, I was with you guys, I think. Yeah, for sure for that.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So it was just it was meant to be. And then after that, we did another European tour, and it became obvious, holy shit, we can make a living doing this.
Yes.
Because Europe became a money-making place for bands to go and play, and they loved American hardcore more than Americans.
100%.
You know, so it was like it became like a viable career,
it's crazy.
And at that point, we all knew that, like, wow, if we you know, really focus on doing this, we can make a living at it. And so why the hell not? Why would we not want to? So, you know, that was when everybody's mind was made up, and we all committed ourselves to Sick of It All being our livelihood.
Was that the last job you had? Was at Relativity then?
Yeah, that was my last.
That's
like
fucking
9
amazing.
to 5. Yeah.
That's crazy. And some people might not know this about it, but you write a lot of songs for Sick of It All. Like I'm sure you write a good percentage of the songs, and usually it's not usually the drummer that's involved in that. That's why I think it's awesome and very unique that you've always been like that.
I started out on guitar, you know, like,
that's true.
Even though like back in Iran, I was, you know, like I told you, I had that teacher that like taught me the basics of drumming.
Yeah.
Like when I moved to America, I was living in, you know, because my dad had to stay behind and deal with the whole, you know, selling of the house and like dealing with, and he also wasn't an American citizen, so it wasn't easy for him to travel out of Iran at that point. So, and I was an American since birth because my mom was an American. Yeah. And so it was easy for the three of us. So we moved into my grandparents' house in Jamaica, and we lived in a studio apartment that they had in the back of their house. And it was the three of us in just one room.
That's crazy.
You know?
Yeah.
So I couldn't obviously play drums even though I wanted to. So I picked up guitar, and that was I started playing guitar at 13. So by the time I was doing bands, guitar was like my thing. That was even to this day. Like I think I'm a little bit more natural at playing guitar than I am at drums. Like drums, I basically know how to play Sick of It All songs, but I can't really improvise. You know, I can't improvise on drums. But like with guitar, I could improvise. I could like just like come up with shit. It's more kind of fluid, and you know what I mean. So for me, writing music is you know, I always want to be involved in writing music and you know, the melodies of it, not just the drum beats.
Yeah, that's awesome. And since you wrote a bunch of stuff on Just Look Around, obviously.
Actually, on Just Look Around, let me see. I helped out.
Yeah.
But at that point, I wasn't really like a full, because there were a number of songs that were already written,
floating around and shit. Yeah.
Like you know, We Stand Alone.
That's right.
Just Look Around, written. What's Going On was already written and released on the We Stand Alone 7-inch.
You're right.
You know what I mean? So there was a good amount of that material that was already written, and then I was involved in the songwriting, but not as much because we were so kind of collaborative at that point. A lot of it, like for example, that song In Dust, that was written because Richie was like just clowning around, like I think he was making fun of Evan from Biohazard, and and he started playing that riff, and I started playing drums to it, and Pete started playing. It was just one note, but like it became a song, you know, like, and
that's a good song.
But songs are like written by just the four of us getting together and kind of just messing around. It was more of like a jam thing at that point, than it was like a structured songwriting thing.
That's crazy.
So like I was involved in more, not so much riff writing, but more the arrangements and stuff like that. Gotcha. And every once in a while, like I would be involved with like writing a part here, a part there, and then I wrote a bunch of lyrics on Just Look Around. So, you know, I was more involved in those ways. And then later on, I guess with like Scratch the Surface, that was when I became more of like a true songwriter, where I would bring entire songs to the table, music and lyrics.
Wow, and concepts. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So after that record was Scratch the Surface came after that. And that was 90 what? That was 95?
That was 94 is 94. When it came out late 94.
Yeah.
And at that point, that was when everything blew up in Europe.
Crazy, dude. I was with you guys. It was
level.
Yeah,
you saw it.
It's fucking crazy, man.
I know.
So yeah, just touring with you guys and seeing the world at that young of age, and just seeing like, and just going to Japan with you guys and South America for the first time with you guys. Those experiences are insane. Like just seeing the crowd reactions to.
Remember when you used the bidet and the bathroom and the in the Japanese label office?
I did. What I do? I shit in there.
You know, you didn't shit in it, but like I think you were just like messing with it. I think it like sprayed you in the face and went all over the ceiling, and you had no idea how to turn. Like, you were afraid to turn it off. The water went everywhere.
First time using a bidet. Holy shit.
Yeah.
One of the themes of this whole entire season of New York Friends is the tough love and the ball breaking and the tough skin I got from meeting all you guys, and like, you know, the whole concept of like the New York thing is like, this finds his weakest point and then poke at it for hours until he snaps. But the minute somebody fucks with you, you know, we got your back. And we love you like a little brother, even though we call you the girly man from Maryland or whatever. It's this tough love kind of thing, and I feel like it's only in New York. I feel like it's just a New York thing. I'd never experienced it anywhere else because obviously I haven't lived any other places. But like, just the way you guys always liked that back then, it got pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a pretty stark difference to the way the Rancid guys were when we first met them, because everybody was so like kind of supportive of each other and nice to each other, and we were like always like busting each other's balls, and it was a whole different
we met them at City Gardens.
A way of joking around, and like, you know, it took those guys a minute to like see what, you know, what we were all about. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're all friends. We all got each other's backs. But like the whole rest of the day, we're busting each other's balls.
It's crazy. And I was talking about on the podcast too, I feel like the Sick of It All Rancid connection was the first real friendship and connection between East and West Coast bands at that point in early '94, because there's all.
It's true.
Yeah, there's all.
You know, because I think back to the '80s, and it was always beef. It was always beef between like, you know, like Suicidal, you know, come through, and like, even though people loved them, and like, you know, I saw them play CBs. They played CBs because even at that point they were too big to play there, so they played under the name Institutionalized.
Yeah,
you know?
That's right.
But it was absolutely jam packed, and people were going nuts. But you know, people from the New York scene automatically hated them just because they were West Coast dudes.
It's crazy, man.
You know, and there was always like some like stupid beef that would happen between like people from the West Coast. So when they would come through, you know, somebody would like go and slash their tires.
There was a Mike Ness and Stigma thing I heard about back in the day. Mike Ness and Stigma, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's crazy stories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know, and it sucked.
Yeah.
So the fact that, you know, we were able to you know, be the ambassadors of New York hardcore was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and what I said about you guys too, I got interviewed for the Pete and Lou book, is that what I liked about Sick of It All, obviously, you know, before Sick of It All, Agnostic Front was doing the crossover stuff, and that was a couple years before you guys even I think came out, but when Sick of It All came out, you guys weren't afraid to go on tour, New Titans on the Block, or play with Korn, or play with diverse bands. You guys weren't just about preaching to the converted, and I think that speaks volumes about you guys, your open-mindedness, and the fact why you're still playing today. You know what I mean?
I mean, I hope so. You know, it's weird because like, I think the more people listen to the industry, the more the people's minds get divided and categorized and everything like that. You know, whereas, you know, when I was growing up, I loved every kind of music across the board.
Yeah.
And, you know, my appreciation of aggressive music meant I loved punk. It meant I loved hardcore.
Yeah.
It meant I loved metal. It meant I loved like anything that came out that had like an aggressive edge to it.
Yeah.
I didn't limit myself. I loved the Butthole Surfers, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like real like kind of experimental bands, but they were also intense on stage. So you know, so like everybody was more open-minded back then, as opposed to today, where you almost have promoters that are the ones that are dictating what bills they're excited about. And they're more excited about bills that are like bands that all sound the same.
Yeah, it's weird. It's definitely, yeah, it's true.
And then the audience that shows up wants all the bands to sound the same. And it's like that bums me out because I love diversity. I love I've always loved the fact that, like, you know, and you saw like the first festival shows we played in Europe were a lesson. They were a total lesson in diversity, where like you'd have completely different types of music all sharing the same stage, and the show would be great. Because everybody got into whatever energy each band was putting out in their own way. So when Sick of It All came out, like, there were a lot of times where we felt, holy shit, we're the only hardcore band on this bill. Are people going to be receptive? Are they going to hate us? You know, what? We had no idea what the reaction would be, and it was always super positive. And they just loved the fact that we were like, you know, we had that intensity to us, and the fact that these guys were like running around the front of the stage, and like, you know, they fed off of it so much that it was like the moment in that show where instead of like just like waving their hands around and being like, you know, kind of, you know, in this like dream state kind of thing, like with like slower music, where all of a sudden everybody got that same intensity to them, or all like, you know. So
I remember the one festival you guys were playing with Jackal. Remember Jackal with the chainsaw? I saw a picture the other day of that, of us in Snapcase on that tour. That was crazy, man.
I know.
And you always loved Eric B. and Rakim too. You loved hip hop too, though.
Oh yeah, totally. And I mean, we never got to play all that much with hip hop groups. In France, there was. So we played with guys from the Wu-Tang Clan and stuff like that. You know, shared the same stage with them and a bunch of reggae bands, and we were like the only hardcore band.
Awesome.
And, you know, like, things like that happen over in Europe, and you think about it, and it's like that would never happen in the States.
Never,
and
dude.
And it's a shame that it doesn't. Because, you know, because the industry is it creates these boundaries for people which shouldn't exist.
What do you think? What do you think the key is to you guys' success and your longevity right now? And you know, when I see you guys play now, like I saw you guys play a couple weeks, and this is honestly the guy I feel this way about Sick of It All is every time I see you guys, you give 110%. Doesn't mean if it's like 20 kids or 20,000 people. I've seen you guys play to all different crowds, and you always give 120%. And you can see that on stage. You know if a band's on stage going through the motions is doing it for a paycheck, and then you know if a band really loves what they're doing, you guys, and you can see you guys love what you're doing still. So what do you think it is that makes you guys feel this way this many years later, the passion and stuff, you know?
I guess it's just a matter of pride, like, you know, just having the pride in yourself, the pride in, you know, performing well no matter what, you know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of sound checks. As long as I'm not hungover, I'll approach a sound check, you know what I mean, with the same mentality that I would a show. And that's for no audience. I just want to play the song well. I want to play the song with intensity. I want to play it at the, you know, with the right feel and all that kind of stuff. So you take that on stage with you, and you always just hope that your efforts are rewarded with the audience loving it. You know what I mean? So I don't really ever change the way I approach playing. I think it's more just like I just always want to play well. I don't want to make mistakes. I want to feel good about myself. And I guess that goes back to pride, you know, just being able to be proud in what you're doing, and how it sounds, and like how well you do it.
Do you get different? You have different pains now being older playing drums? You feel the difference being older?
You know what? Like, there are things that come and go. There's a nagging injury in my right ankle that, like, it flares up every once in a while because my right foot is so busy playing drums. But I didn't get the injury from playing drums. I got the injury from being shit-faced drunk and falling down.
Rolling your ankle.
Rolling my ankle on a bus, you know. Hoya from Madball was downstairs when it happened. He was the one that told me about it the next day. He was just like, "You fell down the stairs, bro," and I was just like, "Oh shit, really?" And I didn't even think about it. And then like 2 days later, all of a sudden I could barely walk.
Damn.
And that was an incident known as vomit face. Hoya coined that term as well.
Vomit face?
Yeah.
So are you the only guy in the band that drinks?
Yeah.
Okay. You're like, yeah.
Well, actually, that's not true. Lou did have a glass of wine last night.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but that's only because it was we have 3 days off in a row.
No, that's
so
cool.
as,
Yeah.
as long as he's not playing a show like the next day or anything like that, he'll indulge a little bit. But I'm the guy that does sell a lot more often, and to a fault. Like I there were many times where I realized I have to kind of pull it back and not be so bad.
Yeah. Well, you and Craig are like the only two people I think from New York hardcore bands that have no tattoos except for in your lips. That's about it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's crazy.
I mean, for me, it was kind of like I never thought it would. I don't know. I'm just too hairy, like like because you see people with tattoos are always like shaving their arms and stuff like that.
It's true.
For me, if I had to shave my arms, then the rest of me would look crazy because then you know what I mean? I'd be covered in hair everywhere else and not on my arms, so it'd just be weird. So I'm just like go straight Bigfoot like throughout my whole life, and then.
It's kind of cool not to be tattooed now. It's kind of cool not to be tattooed too, though, for sure.
Well, I mean, it is pretty odd, like seeing how many people have like sleeve tattoos
it's insane,
now.
Dude. It's insane.
Yeah, like, and it doesn't mean anything like what it did back in the day when you see people covered in tattoos now. It doesn't mean they're part of some underground movement or whatever.
It doesn't.
It's just mainstream.
It's fashion.
Yeah, it's fashion and mainstream and like kind of like I don't know. I guess like tough guy for guys and tough girl for girls, and it's just like
it's an accessory. It's and like in hip hop, it seems like more like an accessory. You have to have these shoes, this Gucci bag, and this face tat. It's kind of like an accessory. Right. It's interesting.
Yeah, and that's crazy too. That's actually become so widespread for people to get face tattoos. It's
the first tattoo. I know.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's a bizarre world we live in.
So did you ever feel like besides the first time, were you ever worried about the future? Because there's no retirement plan in this. There's no 401k. Like
I know.
There's a lot of sacrifices involved for what we do, and we do it because we love it, and obviously we make a living doing it. And did you ever think about the end game or?
I never really did, and I think that. If I was obsessed with that, because there's a perfect example of a guy that did obsess over that and then ended up not being a musician, even though he very well could have been.
Yeah.
Was Anthony Communal from Killing Time.
Yeah, we talked about that on my podcast already. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's he was a guy always talking about the future. But what are you going to do, kid? Well, later on in life, what are you going to do? How are you going to set yourself up? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And he was so obsessed with the future that Killing Time ended up not being a band. You know,
he talked about it. He said that he wished he didn't play it safe. He told me the other day. I'm like, but yeah, he told me that.
Yeah. So and it's a shame that he realized that later in life because Killing Time and Sick of It All could have been, hand in hand, experiencing like mid '90s hardcore in Europe where.
I love Killing Time, man. I love them.
It was just so huge. It was, and Killing Time even had more of a possibility of breaking through because they had guitar leads and they had like, you know what I mean? And they had a little bit more melody in the music. They could appeal a little bit more to metal crowds, I think.
Yeah.
So
taking that
chance. Yeah, exactly. So that's the perfect example of a guy who did obsess over the future as opposed to us where nobody ever really gave too much thought to it. And luckily it ended up working out for us, like
it's crazy.
I think it's just I don't know what it is. Maybe the energy you put out comes back in positive ways.
Yeah.
There's no real explanation, but
it's just like you say, nonstop. That you guys never gave up, you never quit, you kept pushing through. And you just people. For what I always say, like, when are you going to stop playing? Well, when people stop showing up. But you can go to Europe and still have great. You can go everywhere and do good shows. Depends where you go, but people still care. And people like growing up with you. Now their kids are coming to your shows. It's like different generations. It's like
and I think there are a lot of bands from the old times that like I don't know. I guess Cock Sparrer would be a good example.
Fucking great band, great dudes. Holy shit.
Exactly. And
killing it.
they're a band that, like, when they decided to do it again, it was like they must have been like, holy shit, look at these crowds.
Yep.
These people love us, and it convinced them to make it like a really serious thing again. So they're like a touring band again, and
it's amazing.
And for them to like get back into it after so many years and not doing it, it must be so rewarding for them to like play these shows and have the people adore what they do.
Yeah, 100%.
So I mean,
go ahead.
And it goes back to that whole like Fat Mike thing, where you just you look at people that didn't have music in their lives for a long time, and then they're doing it again, and there's so much joy in making music and spreading the love, and the vibrations of music are so important to people that it's just great to see people get back into it. And I always say that, like, I always want to see musicians playing no matter what, like even if their band wasn't successful and they had to break it up, keep making music, even if you find yourself working a regular job, keep yourself active and alive creatively by making music, because you can never go wrong. There's always going to be someone somewhere that's going to love it.
100%.
So why not do it?
Yeah.
Why not put it out there? Like, make your music available online, like whatever.
100%.
You're always going to have fans, especially if you already have a little bit of a following from like your first band or whatever. There's always going to be people that are kind of following you in one way or another.
So obviously people listening, they know that you guys are a big part of H2O's beginnings with My Love Is Real, and it'll be me, you, and Pete. Sometimes Isaac, sometimes Tim Shaw. We'd play this song, and that's where it kind of started with you guys. And
did Isaac play bass?
He played bass once in a while, like on the Biohazard tour.
Did, right?
The Biohazard one, that was a crazy ass tour.
I was always picturing Tim Shaw on bass, but
once in a while. Yeah,
it was Isaac too. I guess it was kind of easy song, right?
It was so easy. And then we sometimes in Renan we had like one of that big gigantic Biohazard roadie played bass once at one of the shows at one of those tours. But I remember you came to my first show in '94, and I got a picture of you, you had my back because I was your drum tech, and you were my drum tech that night. I have a picture of you like sitting by my drums so they didn't tip over. and then that fucking riot broke out. That was a crazy first show, man. Fuck, man.
Yeah.
But so on a scale of 1 to 10, how was my roadie skills?
You know what it was? I think the entertainment value.
That's what Pete said.
That was
comic relief.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. The sheer entertainment of it was what made it so great, because like when you stopped being our roadie, all of a sudden like things just weren't anywhere near as fun.
Thanks, man. It's crazy. Yeah, so you're obsessed with my roping. We talked about roping on Pete's episode, where I project out shit up my butt. You loved it, bro. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, it's come on. You're a unique individual. You have a unique talent.
I used to, yes.
Oh, come on. You don't have that talent anymore?
I eat too good now. What happened was I became a vegetarian. Then I started going to Europe. I left the country and went to Europe, you guys. It was like all that veggie slop backstage, all that shit. And I remember the first time it happened where I couldn't make it to the urinal. I had to shoot it in the urinal or something. And like, I realized I could shoot poop really far out of my ass. Like it was just, and then it became like, and then everybody would be like, "You're gonna do it? You're gonna rope?" And you guys, so people started following me to the bathroom, and I couldn't even go to the bathroom regularly. It was like.
It was like a daily ritual, It had to, it wouldn't be like a normal Sick of It All tour without seeing at least one rope every day.
It's true.
It became like part of the entertainment of being on the road was seeing it happen. And, there were so many different instances, so many different settings.
Pizza boxes.
I remember one time we were playing a show in Jersey, and we had we opened up an entire giant pizza box. It was like one of those giant Jersey pizzas.
Oh yeah.
And we opened it up, and it was like probably, 4 feet, that would cover the ground. Yeah. And then you stood probably 3 or 4 feet away from it, so that like you would shit on the box.
Yeah.
And your shit your rope actually overshot the pizza box. So I think that was probably a record for distance, but like the spastic colon, man.
Yeah, you named it that. I never got tested for it, but I had a spastic colon. According to Dr. Armand, I had the spastic colon. And I've been dreading getting a colonoscopy when I turned 50. Like, oh my God, it's going to be fucked up in there. Who knows, but whatever.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of medical explanation because there aren't a whole lot of people that can even come close to that. I don't think, because I've seen other people online like kind of doing similar stuff, but it's...
Oh, so you researched it because you missed me. Interesting.
No. It was somebody, one of these guys, I guess, like just happened to see somebody shooting a shit out of their ass online, and but it was nothing like rope. Like you have to tell me you have that photo that Minus took, right?
I got the one with Lou in it. You think is that the one?
No. It's like this weird picture. There was from the end of that Biohazard tour. It was like one of the last days of the Biohazard tour in '93.
Okay.
And it was a picture of you. You're standing there. Your pants around your ankles. It's from the side, and it's a kind of messed up, blurry picture. But
you can see the rope on the ground in my butt, like a total rope, right?
Yeah, it's connected. Like it's coming out. It's making this big arc, and it's connected from your ass and to the ground at the same time.
I'm finding it. I'm gonna post that shit.
For that, for that to have been captured on film, and because back then it wasn't
like Bigfoot
digital cameras, it was actual, a shutter, regular, old style camera.
Yeah.
So for that to be captured on film the way it was, that was an amazing photo.
It's like Bigfoot. Like people found Bigfoot because this is like an urban legend and myth. And Pete said when we're all dead, the legend's gonna die because there's really no proof of it. It's so fucked.
But it makes it even better because it's kind of blurry, just like the Bigfoot footage. It's awesome.
So I don't know how this shit came out. I know you love that shit. Obviously, we did Pussy Boy. I remember like just smashing shit at clubs and using the phones in the offices because we had no cell phones to call our friends back home. Running up the phone bills on that tour. Oh my God, dude.
Yeah. Pizza ass. Did the other guys talk about pizza ass at all?
No, let's get into it. I forgot about this. What is it?
Well, pizza ass, it was like that nasty rash that you got all between your butt cheeks from like I'm guessing it was rope related,
It had to be. Oh my God.
Because seriously, like just think about throwing rope. Like I remember when we were in Rome and you shit on the Colosseum. I mean, I hope like Italians aren't offended by this, but like we visited the Colosseum. Back then there was no kind of
security,
security or
weird.
like. Yeah, we could just walk right up to it, and we were just hanging out in the columns of the Coliseum, and then you had to shoot rope, so you like shit on the Coliseum. And
I'm so sorry, people.
But think about that. You have to apologize to all of Italian culture.
Oh my God.
But you had no toilet paper,
That's
so
right.
You did what you had to do. You just like. I mean, a lot of ropes were like that, where you just kind of like, you did it and you pulled your pants up and walked away.
Yeah, but I think I spread my cheeks really well, too, so it didn't touch the sides of my cheeks. I tried to be, like, professional. I don't know. It's hard, though.
I think no matter what, there's some residual,
Yeah.
residual stuff.
This is so gross.
Kind of like lingering and, festering in there. So you ended up with pizza ass. And then, after the Coliseum, another like rope story that was good. It was like the same, just like an hour later, we were walking through this beautiful park, and it was in Rome as well. And we were all like walking around, like looking at how awesome the place was and how all the plants were beautiful. And then next thing you know, you're like, oh man, I got rope again. And then you run over, and I watch, and I'm like, the same thing. I see like the side of your ass.
Yeah.
And this stuff. And it wasn't just like a rope. It wasn't like a solid thing coming out. It was like it was like a spray, but it was like chunky too at the same time. And the pieces of shit were like flipping around each other as they were flying out of your ass. It was the most crazy shit I had ever seen in my life.
It's like a sawdust chainsaw or some shit.
It was like flipping out of your ass. I've seen a lot of ropes, but that one moment was like, it was kind of a special moment as far as like,
oh my God, dude.
as far as the spastic colon is concerned.
And were you there when I took my clothes off and I guess rubbed shit on myself and chased all the roadies around in the gymnasium?
Oh yeah. Actually, you know what? That was the second time I think I saw you do something like that. The first time, I forget who you were fighting. I think you were. Was it Craig? You were like play fighting in the hotel room, and you went full berserker where you were completely naked, right? So because we were talking about the whole berserker thing, where people were going to battle completely naked.
Yes.
So you started doing that, like when you wanted to, like you would fight with Isaac on the road.
Oh yeah.
Like fight with Craig or fight with whoever.
Then like,
you would come at them completely naked, and they would have to fight you naked. And then the first time I saw the shit involved in that was down in Argentina in a hotel room, and you were like fucking around with Craig, and you guys were wrestling, and then all of a sudden you kind of stopped, and you reached down, and you just shit in your hand, and you're like, "Come on, motherfucker!" Like like egging him on to come at you with shit, a pile of shit in your hand. It was fucking great.
Gigi Allen shit, pre Gigi Allen shit. Oh, I don't know why I did that. So that was like a defense mechanism, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It was a defense mechanism because you know that nobody's gonna want to fuck with you if you're covered in your own shit.
Fuck. And were you there too for the obviously we had the Manchester fight with the bootleggers? Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't take part in that fight though. I was really late to it. It was like over by the time
late to the fight.
I was late to the fight.
And then the riot in Arizona with the Nazis. Dude, there's so many crazy. That tour was so crazy, man.
Yeah, that was a crazy tour. Do you remember when you and Isaac were play fighting? You did full berserker, and we were down in Miami. We were in a hotel in Miami, and Isaac and I threw you out of the hotel room into the hallway naked and we locked the door.
I do remember that. What about the? What about
and you were like, you were cracking up at first. You were like laughing, and then you realized how serious it was. You're like, come on, man, this ain't funny anymore, man. It was so funny to hear you get all serious all of a sudden.
What about the bed? Remember the bed jumps? Like we jump off the bed onto the wall and kick our feet against the wall and pop back onto the bed. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Because I just saw a picture of that the other day. It was a weird thing we did.
Yeah, I know, and the destruction of stuff like hotel rooms and stuff like that. I don't know how the band got away with it,
dude. And then the phone. Go ahead.
You know what's funny is the fact that Barney from Napalm Death he wants to always smash shit,
dude.
And that's left over from touring with you guys.
Yeah, he still wants to do it. He emailed me the other day because I sent him this picture of us us from the tour. Yeah, he loves smashing trays of meat trays on people and Dude, he's so amazing, man.
Remember when he was leaving the Persistence tour that time, and you dumped all those peanuts on his head when he was leaving? You bombed him from 3 floors up, and it landed perfectly too. It went all over, all in his hood, all in his bag.
So it's safe to say, even though we're parents and we're I'm almost 50, guys are 50s. We're parents. We have kids. We have mortgages. We play music. Yeah. We're still never kind of grew up because.
Well, I mean, I think that kind of, and it's funny too because people always say that we look young.
Totally.
And I think just playing music kind of forces you not to just be beaten down by the world.
100%.
You know what I mean? Because and I think that shows in a lot of people, even physically, where you meet somebody your own age and my God, look at this guy. He's my age.
Dude.
He looks like he's 70.
100%.
And or people just let themselves go, and
they give up.
And before they know it, they're too far gone to ever be normal again. To be fit again, be healthy again.
Yeah,
it's a shame. It's a shame to see people fall apart. And I think just having music in your life is always going to be something that keeps you young, mentally, physically, you 100%.
Name it. That's why I'm saying like we got we got wives, we got kids, we get to travel, do what we love, play music, and there's no reason to be angry about anything. I don't think, unless you're angry against the world, obviously the shit going on with our president, all that stuff. But to get to do what you love, I think that keeps you young. I think people that, like you said, they look way older because they're working these jobs they hate every day and they're miserable, and it's like, and not many people get to do what they love, so we're lucky. But
I mean, it's like, and you think about it, and as far as like a musician is concerned, it would be like being on tour with somebody that you can't stand. Like if you hired like the wrong guy, your TM, you know, and like your tour manager, and then you don't get along with them, and you like hate being around them and all that kind of stuff. Just think that's what people have to face and going to the office every day. So I really feel bad, you know, for the regular people in the workforce, because they have to deal with so much adversity in their lives. And I guess that's probably why they love music so much, because it's like, it's a good way for them. It's a good way for them to just like get it all out, like
and escape,
just escape from that bullshit that they have to deal with every day.
But like we get to go on tour, and like our only responsibility is we have 23 hours to do what we want anywhere we want, and just play like 45 minutes to an hour every day, and like it's crazy. And we could do I mean, so when you're on tour, it's like your kids again. You're fucking acting crazy and just, you know, it's breaking balls with each other. Obviously, you get tired quicker because you're older, but like it's reality and fantasy. I call like touring's fantasy, because you just, like you say, you're just hanging out, and you get home and it's like, okay, drive your kid to school, like do this, you know. I mean, it's
and it's, you know, what's crazy too is the fact that, like, you know, you have that the duality going on in your life.
Yes, you got to balance it, man.
And it's crazy to go from, let's say, like a European festival tour. Every day you're like in this backstage where you might be like rubbing elbows with some like really famous musician and everything like that. And you're like, oh shit, I was standing next to so-and-so the other day. Like, you know, there are times where we've been like, oh, there's Lemmy's at the other table right there, you know? Like, so like there are all those instances that can be viewed at like they're very glamorous places to be and like settings to be in. And then you go back home and instantly you're just like a generic person.
Joe Schmo on the street. I mean? 100%.
But I think, you know, it's always good to be grounded that way. I think that's what you know, it sucks as far as our bank accounts are concerned, but I think it's good as far as keeping us normal people,
100%.
You know, for hardcore bands to be not like wildly successful and like money making, where we can fall into like all of the trappings of what rock stars fall into.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think everybody's way more grounded out of the punk and hardcore, because, you know, they don't have the trap, you know, like they can't afford to have those trappings.
They can't. And so it's like the last day of the tour, we're playing a show. Okay, 20,000 people. Then you're flying home the next day. Your wife's like, okay, wake up. You have to drive your kid to school. It's like 7 a.m. back to reality.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy balance, man.
It's like, back to reality, you know.
But I love that. I mean, did becoming a parent change anything for you as far as your career or being? Obviously, it makes it harder to leave our families, but I love coming home to them. It's the best feeling. But
it's
hard.
It gives you everything. Because I don't know, like I guess I was kind of like a weird kid growing up, because I always wanted to be married. I always wanted to have a family.
Yeah.
And in a way that kind of played out into my dating life as well, because I was so kind of like picky. Everybody used to call me Seinfeld, you know, because I would always find a fault with this girl or that girl, or like, you know, she does this, I can't stand it, you know, like the same way Seinfeld would like nitpick all the dates that he would be on.
Yes.
And so like I was always looking for that. And so once I met my wife and you know, we had our first kid and everything like that, it gives you, you know, where your home is, you
100%.
know, like having that absolute 100% bond with multiple people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just your significant other, but also your kids. Like, you know, like they wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for you. So it's like it's a whole different level of attachment that you experience. So and having that and always being thinking to go home to it is just such a rewarding thing.
It is, and my wife said that she feels like the key to our longevity being married 24 years is that I am in a band and I do leave, and she gets time to herself, and we have that space, and we get to miss each other, and she feels like, since I think that's was a healthy part for a relationship.
I agree. I think it's good to be able to miss each other. I think it's a really healthy thing for a relationship. I agree.
Do you instill a lot of the values you got from like hardcore and punk into your children as a father? You feel like you use that in your daily life? Obviously you do, but
I do, but yeah, it's weird how conservative my kids are, because they're they're pretty conservative kids. It's not like I instilled those values in them.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I've always valued, freedom of expression. So
yes.
Obviously, whatever anybody's feelings are, I think they should be able to have them.
100%.
So I've never felt like it was and that's why one of the things about the whole like Antifa movement and everything like that, it's like, if you don't agree with them, then they have the right to kick the shit out of you,
yeah.
So where they've become their own worst enemy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that whole thing, that whole mentality that kids have to deal with nowadays, where it's like, if they don't fit in with the ultra PC, ultra blah, 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 like that whole, that mentality. Like, my kids are going to college now, so they're surrounded by it, but they're not that way. So they feel a little isolated. They feel a little kind of like, like they can't voice their own opinions, because they'll be thought of differently, and they don't want to be outcasts. They would rather just keep quiet.
It's a very PC world. Yeah.
Yes, but too PC for its own good. Because
I agree.
I don't think people are being honest with each other anymore. I don't think, I prefer blunt honesty, even if it's ugly.
Yeah.
That's the world I prefer, because then at least people are real with each other.
Yeah, people tippy-toe. People walk on eggshells around people for everything now, and everybody wants to protest any little comment or anything. It's like, somebody said it's called recreational uproar. There's a name for it. It's like recreational. That's really funny, man. Just the way people want to jump up and attack, and everybody has an opinion, and it's crazy.
And everybody's so aggressive about if you don't agree with them, then you're evil. You're branded this way, and I don't remember the world being quite as harsh in that way, and especially because it's all like super leftist politics, if you could call it that, because it's not. You know what I mean? It's like it's like leftist ideals, but done in a way where it's all harsh right-wing attitude about it. So I don't even know what it is. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah. Do you pay attention to all the politics and stuff happening in the world, or you just?
It depends, because I think everything. 9/11 was like the perfect example of like a major turning point in my life, where all of a sudden I realized, wow, everything on the news is complete bullshit. I'm supposed to believe the official story? Hell no. So I do not believe that story. Therefore, I do not believe 99% of the shit I hear through the media.
Yeah.
The media, and the people that listen to Sick of It All know this about us.
100%.
We have songs completely about this, where we wear it on our sleeve. The fact that we do not believe the stuff that we're told, and you look at history, and there are certain things that come out about even your own government that are so horrific that you think to yourself, okay, so if government officials were willing to do that back then, of course they're willing to do it today.
Yeah, even more now. Yeah, sure.
Even more now. Yeah, because especially because the military-industrial complex seems to rule the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where it's such a confusing world, man. I don't get it, man. It's like you got that, fact that America goes around destabilizing entire regions of the world, and the American military is used by the people that make the weapons, and by the government, and by other countries, to do their bidding, and meanwhile, back at home, everybody's so against citizens arming themselves. Meanwhile, America is like this predatory war machine moving around the world.
It's crazy.
You know what I mean? Like, killing other people indiscriminately, but then at home, you can't even arm yourself against a tyrannical government, which I think we kind of have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's weird how, the world events that have happened and the way the media has been and the way I feel we've been lied to has made me more of a conservative person. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I don't believe in gun control. I would rather not see a militarized police force. I would rather not see a U.S. military that does the bidding of other countries and goes into areas with no end game.
Yeah.
You know, like what they did in Iraq. It was just so, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so there's so many things about politics that bum me out, and so I take everything with such a grain of salt now that I basically watch the news only to pick it apart and see what kind of bullshit they're feeding us.
So you're an optimist when it comes to life and what you do, your career and your family and your life, but you're a pessimist when it comes to like the government and all this stuff. Pretty much.
My God, yeah, I don't trust the government. I don't trust the media. I don't trust.
You've always been like that, though.
I don't trust the powers that be. And I guess in a more simple time when I was younger, it was the same thing. You felt like authority was bad. Authority figures
fuck
were
authority.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess it's the same idea, but just now I feel like I see through the matrix. I see the bullshit that we're being fed on the news. Like when I see like these like supposed live news feeds of this shooting unfolding, I'm like, why would they be doing that? Like that makes no sense. Like I you know what I mean? Like I don't just believe everything I'm fed.
Yeah, you question everything. And that's what kind of punk rock taught you to in the first place.
Exactly. You got to question everything.
Question authority. Listen to everything, believe everything. Do you have any regrets in your life?
Yes, I actually do have one regret, and that was when I kicked out the bassist in Rest in Pieces, this guy Josh Barker. That was a really good friend of mine because I lost a really good friend because of it, and it taught me a valuable lesson about being like too much of a musical dictator, like where, just because he didn't. Thank you. And just because he didn't like play bass as well as Craig did,
Wow.
I got him out of the band and I got Craig in instead, and he hated me ever since that day because it was his band, and I came in.
Shit.
And I came in, and like a year and a half, 2 years later, I kicked him out.
Wow.
So, and the band, like I think my whole life would have been better if I had him as a friend, up until this day.
Yeah. So you don't talk to him anymore. Do you know where he's at? You know where he is?
I have no idea.
Damn.
And I know that, and I know anytime I've ever ran into somebody that knows him and says like, oh, by the way, I saw Josh a while back and blah, blah, blah. Anytime I've ever asked about him, he always had the same message back to me. Like, tell that guy he's a dick.
Oh shit.
So even to this day, like he still bears like an intense grudge, So I just feel I feel really bad about that. And I mean, I know that's not like the worst regret to
it's not.
have.
No, not at all.
So other than that, I'm pretty content with my life.
Yeah. Do you have any like daily rituals?
Rituals?
Yeah, like something you do every day. Do you work out? Do you have like your coffee? Like, do you have like something you do every day?
I'm a little too much of a beer lover. One of the things that I do, and this is one of the reasons why I get along so well with Dave Whitty from Municipal Waste, the drummer from Municipal Waste.
Yeah.
We're both like beer nerds. We love like really, like craft beer and everything that goes along with it.
So you love Germany, like traveling all through Europe, getting all those different beers in different countries.
Belgium is like, it's like heaven for us. So, and in America now is just the craft beer movement is so huge. Like, I basically I plan my days around what breweries are around me. Sometimes, like today, for example, after we're done with this, our TM, Stage Tech, and I, Noodles, we're going to go hit up like probably 3 different breweries around where Pete lives.
Oh, that's awesome.
And do like a little like brewery
taste test.
Uber crawl.
Yeah.
You know, where you just like Uber it around, like little like hops, you know, hopping around from brewery to brewery and like trying out their stuff and like seeing what it's all about.
I mean, so were you ever straight edge? When you went straight ahead, were you straight edge ever or no?
No, I mean,
Never.
I've gone through periods of my life. You know, it's funny because I didn't even really discover beer until it was like 2004 when I moved to Wisconsin. That was when I discovered beer.
Oh, shit.
I knew that Europe had great beer and you could drink a lot of it and it tasted great and you woke up the next day with no hangover, you know, like
yeah.
I knew that aspect of you know, how good beer could be.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I moved to Wisconsin and discovered how amazing American Midwestern beer was.
That's crazy.
That made me realize, wow, I'm like a beer fanatic. And like, and before I knew it, I ballooned up. Like I gained like 30 pounds.
Holy shit. There's mad carbs in there.
It was pretty rough. Yeah. But like, you know, I've loved beer ever since. So that's been like my kind of hobby is, you know, like you won't really see me wearing like band t-shirts. I'm always wearing beer t-shirts.
That's like Rusty's like a coffee snob. Every country he finds like the best coffee shop will walk like 10 miles to get the best cup of coffee. Like, so it's the same thing.
Oh, yeah?
Like, yeah, it's like,
yeah, it's funny because that, you know, Marco that went on the road with you guys in Weinfurt, he was telling me that about the coffee place that he took me to, how Rusty like fell in love with that place.
It's so true, too. Everybody has their thing though. You have a thing to make you happy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. And you know, beer is like one of those things that just it makes you happy. Like for me, you know, I'm not an angry drunk, at least. You know, like which is a very good thing. If I was an angry drunk, I could not go anywhere near this stuff. But I just have so much fun drinking it.
Is it just a tour thing, or back home you do it too?
Back home I do it too.
You changed your voice got. Oh, at home I do it too.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of like I feel a little guilty of it because you would think that it's part of like, you know, go wild on tour and do all this drink, but when I'm at home I'm guilty of it as well.
So you got spots where you live you go to too. Yeah.
You know, I mean, the way the craft beer movement is now, there's breweries popping up every other town. There's a brewery, you know. So like I've been doing all these like upstate crawls and like stuff with my wife where we just like travel a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, and we hit like 4 different breweries while we're there. Either that or going to beer festivals, you know. So
that's crazy. You're really into it. Wow.
So much happening. Yeah, there's just so much happening. America is just such a hot spot for amazing beer now. I feel like I'm blessed to live in this country at this time.
That's fucking nuts. You should talk to Mitz too. Mitz is a crazy beer connoisseur too, man.
You know what though, Mitz? I know Mitz loves his beer, but he's such he only really loves drinking beer, session beers, like beers that are light in alcohol that you could just keep drinking all day and all night, you know. And you never really get fucked up, where you just kind of you maintain like a little buzz. Yeah, that's the way he drinks. I'm guilty of liking the stronger beers, so and the darker beers as well. He doesn't really go for the darks, so I like imperial stouts, imperial porters. Those are my shit, you know. So I end up in these situations sometimes where I overdo it. It's very easy to overdo it when the alcohol percentage goes up to like 12-13%. That's crazy. Where you know you're throwing them back and you don't really think about it so much because it tastes so good. Yeah. And then before you know it, you're like, oh, what did I do? You know? It's amazing. And then you have to play a show the next day and you feel like hell. And you're shot because So those are the moments. I've had quite a few moments where I've realized this is just not professional. I have to change my ways here. You know? And I was going to say too, I had one more story I thought about, but before I go, one more story I thought about you is when you remember at the Tapehead show at Fishbone. I don't know if you were drunk or not,
but something happened because I've never seen you fight the whole time I know you. I know you know like you don't try to be a tough guy. You don't try to flex. You just who you are. Obviously, you always. People, whatever. But I remember something happened at that Tapehead show, and I remember I was outside, and you came outside, and you like squared off with some guy wearing creepers. Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
And it was in front of Mars Bar, and like Tommy Carroll rolled up with his daughter and Alexa and their baby, and it was outside.
Oh yeah. That was a fight that I got into with this guy in the pit for Fishbone. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you came outside, and it was like a squared off thing. It was I'd never seen it was like a one-on-one thing. It was nuts.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Because I was trying to think of stories like you never wild out like that. So that's something I remember that came outside. I was like, holy shit, because I never seen you like that before.
You know what it is? I think I might have been drinking a little bit that night.
Yeah.
But I was never really a big drinker when I was younger.
Yeah.
It wasn't until Wisconsin. So like a lot of my early adult experiences, I was totally sober. So
yeah.
I don't know if that was one. It might have been. I think I might have been maybe a little high.
Oh, okay.
But I guess I was dancing a little too hardcore for a Fishbone show, and I was all over people. I was diving all over people.
Yeah, I think so too.
At one point, I was just diving, and I happened to grab this guy's suit.
Oh shit!
And it tore his suit, and he was like one of these like skinhead guys with like his fancy suit on.
Yeah.
And I went down to the floor. I kind of hit the floor, and next thing I knew, I had this guy's boot in my face. So he kicked me in the face because of what I did to his suit.
Yeah.
So I attacked him inside the club. It quickly got broken up, and both of us got ejected.
That's right.
I was just waiting for him outside, and when he came out, that's when we went at it.
That was great. Right in front of the club, too. I was like, holy shit. Yeah. Because I'd never seen that side of you before, too. I was like, holy shit, yeah. Even like all the years in touring with you,
It happens every once in a while. You know what? I'm a very blessed person in that people don't really fuck with me very often.
Yeah.
Because when people fuck with me, then that side of me can come out pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. The last fight I got into, I was so drunk, and it was just a few years ago. It was probably like 3 or 4 years ago, and so I was, middle-aged man getting into a street fight with like a much younger kid. But it was just because he started mouthing off.
Oh, I remember hearing about this. Was it out by you where you live, right?
Yeah. It was like, and I was so drunk. I mean, I hit him a few times. He tagged me lightly once, I remember, because I remember like waking up and feeling. I remember feeling like my chin, not my chin, but my cheek was a little sore. So he must have hit once, but I remember hitting him a few times, like nice solid shots.
Holy
so I got the better of it before it was broken up.
Yeah.
But I was so drunk that I instantly just like I had no balance. You know what I mean? I fell on the ground, and we were just rolling around, and basically all I was trying to do was just keep him at that point from getting free. So I was just like holding him, and then it got broken up.
That's crazy, man. That was like right in the streets, like where you hang and shit. Yeah, that's crazy.
But it still happens. But I've never been a violent guy. I don't like violence. Like that aspect of the hardcore scene always bummed me out because I knew it was like it was something that, and we all watched it happen in New York, where it like destroyed the scene.
100%. Yeah.
Scary, man. Because all the great things I was saying before about New York being like this fertile community where all the musicians were so productive and the scene was so great.
They knew each other.
And all that kind of stuff. All of that was taken away just by violence.
Yeah.
Violence took it away from us.
It was scary times, man.
Yeah, and it was just so stupid. It was all so senseless, and it didn't amount to anything. And it made the New York scene die, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It was really lame what happened.
Yeah, it was like 91-ish, I think, too, like 89, 91, something like that, right? Like.
Yep, all like the gang mentality, like everybody jumping on one person, all that crap. I don't like that shit.
It was crazy. Oh,
shit. Definitely not my thing.
Yeah. Oh shit. I think we covered a lot of things. We covered. Look at all my notes. Yeah, man. I think we covered a lot.
I know you You got a lot of editing to do.
It's all good. Yeah, we talked for an hour and 42 minutes, which is pretty amazing. But I want to thank you for, like I said to the rest of the guys, taking me on your wing, letting me be your shitty roadie, even though I made you laugh. I appreciate you taking me around the world. That was like my college. I want to thank you for the tough love and the ball breaking, all that stuff, because it gave me thick skin, made me who I am today. I'm proud to call you guys my friends. I'm proud of how far you guys came. You guys inspired me to start my own band.
Man, and vice versa. You know, every moment that you came away from feeling something great, you know, I did the same. It was like that's what having friends is all about. Just sharing good times and you know, being able to laugh about everything.
Totally, man. You guys made it fun for me, and also like, yeah, I could laugh at myself and just come out of my shell, kind of, because I moved it by myself and met all you guys, and you guys took me under your wing. So I appreciate that, and I don't know. So thanks for being on the podcast, Armand. And anything guys that you want to plug anything or no?
No, I'm good.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Craig, who told me I was bald my whole life, and now I still have my head of hair. Made fun of my hairline.
He's completely shot. He's totally shot. He has been for how long now? like 15 years.
So all that psychological shit backfired on me and him. So had me shave my head for 5 years. It was fucking crazy. All right, Armand, thank you so much for being on, bro. When it comes out, I'll let you know and stuff. I appreciate the stories and the reminiscing with you, bro.
Cool, man. Thank you, Tobes.
All right, Armand, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Take it easy. Thank you.
Bye. Hey, guys. Thanks for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet to this podcast, please do that. And whatever platform you are listening to this on, I'm glad you found me. You can rate me and review me on there also. So thank you guys sincerely for the support. I cannot wait for you guys to the next one.